Welcome back to Absolute Nianema, the series about everything cinema in Arknights, and today we return to the watering hole that is Ancient Forge for Dusk, who barely makes it in with Cinema Nights. She gets like a cameo at the end of the event, and that's the only way she qualified for this, unless we want to count this comic, which I think isn't canon, but has all the Sui siblings helping out Nian with one of her films, so that gets us covered up to you, at least. You may ask why I'm so excited for that. Ultimately a very mid splash caster once again, but I think you guys haven't seen the pattern yet. You see, I love summoning gimmicks, so someone like Dusk is already up my alley as someone who ties that gimmick to her basic attacks, basically giving her the feel of a necromancer of thoughts, which I've been in love with for decades. Like Necromancy and necromancers are just the ultimate power fantasy because, one, you effectively have power over life and death itself, and this ties into that power fantasy of being in control of minions. Her being a reclusive neat of an artist is just the whipped cream, sprinkles, and cherry on the top of this huge pile of ice cream. Yes, I already have Ablana and Techno to fulfill those fantasies, especially within Cinema Night's niche, but I think this is still an interesting topic to discuss in a video, so let's talk about Dusk, the first Shapercaster, arguably. Dusk isn't a Shapercaster, but I would consider a progenitor of the subclass, as she shares a similar philosophy to the subclass. Attack enemies to summon minions to help assist themselves in combat. Yes, Dusk differs due to it being on only her talent, IS module, and S3, and she merely only needs to attack to summon them, while Shapercasters need to, kill the enemies and let them die in their range to summon with their skills focused on their summons on top of that. But you can see where Shapercasters could have drawn their inspiration from. Now I'm just going to say this video is more about looking at Dusk on her own merits, because honestly that Shapercaster spell was just more of a framing device on why I like her personally. I want to discuss the future of Shapercasters when we do Techno later down the line. Today's video is more about using Dusk in the big 2-6, especially since she's now a 200 spark pick for this event, and unfortunately, these talents aren't really helping her look good right now. Sublimity and Finishing Touch are her two talents, and yep, these are talents. Sublimity gives her 2% attack whenever she or her minions, the Freelings, kill an enemy, stacking up to 15 times, meaning it caps at 30%. Finishing Touch, on the other hand, lets Dusk, to summon a single Freeling for her first attack when she is deployed for the first time, and this little boy only lasts about 25 seconds. I know in the Nian video, I said Dusk got to do two things interestingly, while Nian barely got one thing, but just because something is interesting doesn't mean it's good. Like, Sublimity is a generic attack boost talent, so let's put that on the side so we can interrogate the second talent. So, a single minion? This is all we're willing to give Year 2 Arknight players? Yes, the SV gives us more, but those feelings on paper offer no synergy with Dusk outside of just being a free body to use. Shapercasters are more interesting because they at least have skills that transform or work together with their summons. The closest we get to something like that on Dusk is her mod Y, and I'm going to say it, build mod Y. You're not building mod X, and I refuse to acknowledge it here anymore. Mod Y gives you DP reduction and quality of life, which honestly should just be base kit for everything on fucking Splashcaster, but we'll get to that when I finally give you the lava video. And also gives the Freelings a reason to exist. Mod Y gives you 2 Freelings now as part of her first attack, but also serves to SP Barry Dusk, which she needs if you're using her S3. There's nothing much else to it, but if you plan to use Dusk, you want her mod Y, unless you're an IS player, which in that case, get her IS module as well. People will tell you it's bad, but for 3 module blocks you get to summon Freelings with every new operator who deals bonus, and the Freelings have to do bonus damage based on the Dusk's attack. Make them like mini Ling dragons in terms of damage, and you can get all of this by just having Dusk have a spot in your squad. It works incredibly well with fast deploys if you're like IS and you have a Dusk, get this module. Okay? Don't listen to the haters. It's an incredibly fun module, and I'll give you a proper defense in a solo video at some point. Just you wait, you fucking Dusk haters. Briefly covering her S1, it's a generic charge skill. Basically, for a charge, Dusk will attack with a larger splash area and a bit more damage. It's nothing special outside of its slightly bigger AoE, and the fact its breakpoint is M1 for the third charge, but also M3 is also its other breakpoint because it removes a single SP cost from the charges. It does have a largest boost in damage, but I'm pretty sure S2 and SV out DPSs it anyway. I'm not going to do the maths to back that up because I like my sanity where it is right now, but I can feel it in my bones that it's right. If I'm going to say anything about the skill design, because let's be honest, crit skills aren't really that interesting to talk about often. I love that it's auto charge and not offensive recharge because an auto charge makes using the skill a lot more forgiving for more slow attacking classes like a splash caster. I have seen people say this is probably her best skill. You know what? Okay, if you like AFK Knights, I guess that's fine. I think the next skill we're going to talk about is arguably her best skill, in quotation marks. I don't think any of these skills are great, but, best skill would be her S2. And look, anyway, I think S1 is a mid skill if you're an AFK player. So you get it if you're like AFK, or you get the spinach and IS with some attack speed to make it maybe worthwhile. I don't know. I don't really make use of spinach when it comes out, to be honest. S2, whose name I'm actually going to read out because it's the good skill. Flowing Ink is her good skill. Basically, she gains that extra volatiles in front and just constantly applies a fat damage check in that area that does bonus damage to enemies below 50% HP. At skill 7, she gains 40% attack and 50 attack speed and deals a bonus of 125% arts damage to enemies below 50%. But you want the M3 if we're using this skill. It gives you 55% for attack, 55% for attack speed, and 130% for bonus damage, although it gains that 130% starting from M1, so you really gonna be going for the M3 for the extra attack and attack speed, uptime, and slightly lower downtime. All that yapping out of the way, the reason this is a good skill is because of its low downtime. 38 seconds is not that impressive, but when you see S3 downtime, and you kind of then realize why everyone wants to use the S2 if they're not using the S1. It doesn't have the special summon gimmick S3 has or the large range, but it provides good solid damage on a decent downtime with a reasonable uptime. Is it as fun as S3? Not really, but it's fun in its own way, I'll give it that. Out of the two, because once again, we're not acknowledging S1, I think you should be doing S2 Mastery first, because it's the solid skill, but S3 is the one that benefits the most from Masteries if you want to use it. Also ignore the fact that I did my S1 Masteries before I did my S2 Masteries, despite everything I've been saying. And that's mainly because I just happened to have the resources for the S1 at the time, okay? Leave me alone. Speaking of which, image over form is the reason why I personally still deploy Dusk. We get a huge arse range, a huge arse splash, an okay arse attack boost, and every attack on a non-blocked enemy will summon a feeling to block them. And the only downside is the longer attack intervals and arguably the fact that she will prioritize unblocked enemies in her range first, which means she will leave the feelings to do the damage on attacked enemies to prioritize other units. It's rough. But if she attacks an enemy that is being blocked by a feeling already, she at least refreshes them, I think. So that's something. I have noticed that do tend to heal, so I think she does refresh them. Anyway, look, it's buff, yeah, sure. And look, I'm not gonna rattle off stats either for this one because let's be honest, the real reason you want to do masteries is for the SP cost. At skill level fucking 7, it's like 104 SP for a 60-second uptime, which is fucking wild. And M3's only making it 100 SP skill, which is still fucking bad. Like, I'm pretty sure this skill in Nian SV is the only reason why both for them has a module that gives them an SP barrier of sorts, and why Shu has her pay-to-win talent, because as the elder sister to these two, she needs to carry their asses. And if you think we're going to get any better with next year's series sibling, you're in a rude awakening. Anyway, this is where Mod Y comes in handy. These two initial feelings provide a decent chunk of SP to get you to that first activation, and provide those feelings spawned by this skill's, survive by the time the skill ends, that will shorten your downtime significantly. Well, as significantly as a module is allowed to. And look, I would love to provide exact numbers, but calculating for this sort of stuff is when my head starts to spin. My point is, Mod Y3, in conjunction with an M3, is how you want to make this skill a reasonable pick, which is an awful lot of investment for what is ultimately a flashy but mid skill. But that's what I love doing. Justifying mid skills over the more normal, usable equivalents. Dusk is nowhere close to being good, even at the time of release, and it's definitely hard to justify that 200 sparks she's asking for these days. But I think that's fine. Like, sure, while with Ling, who came after Dusk, would escalate the performance standards for series ceilings going forward, Dusk for me has carried the most important thing that has kept me going back to the siblings, outside Nian. Fun. For Shaper Casters, Dusk was one of a kind. A caster whose focus was on big AoE splash and summoning minions by just attacking was cool, and even in a post-Shaper caster world, she still stands out by being a splash caster. While yes, I did kind of beat up splash casters in the upcoming lava video, and definitely undoubtedly would have kicked them while they were still down in this video if I could keep something resembling to a release schedule. Dusk's fun factor can't be matched. Like, Dusk continued that all-important fun factor we continue to see in all the series sibling releases, even if they are, well, ones who make us question if this is the level of power being available so easily at times. And look, I would say if you find yourself at 200 Sparkless Penner and not wanting to go to 300 for one of the better series siblings, Dusk is a fine pickup. This is provided you already own Nian though, and because if you pick Dusk over Nian when you don't have Nian, I will be visiting you in your dreams tonight and teaching you the real meaning of Absolute Nianema.